It's Mad along with Stack, and today we're going to talk about the heroes, the Descendants. Stay tuned if they're worth your time. So, first off, is Parry. Parry is definitely the better of the two. A PvP based unit, Spark of Courage deals zap damage to all enemies, and it is spell damage, not based off of attack. So it's not as strong as some of the others that he can use, but Zap is usually a very useful spell. This next one is Power Drill. This one deals 280 physical damage and will move up to 3 squares. This is actually a pretty nice skill overall to get him moving and up around. The third one, Shining Slice, deals 410% bang physical damage to an enemy and high 60% probability for increasing damage for 3 turns. And as a special, just like the Dragon Quest V hero, you can get this skill Special Psych Up, which will greatly increase his own tension for 1 turn. It is very heavy in the MP consumption, though, but it is a very large tension increase, which will do a lot of damage on the next turn. And if you time it correctly, you can psych up and then do the heroic damage, and you will do a great deal of damage, which is what Parry does best. And what Parry does best is he does a lot of damage, especially when you do special psych up on turn 2 or 3, because First Awakening skill at the start of the battle, for the first 3 turns, you greatly increase attack, defense, wisdom, and agility. After that, he drops off pretty hard, but this is why he is a PvP based unit overall. He has Sizz and Crackle. The third one, tension increase based on how many enemies you attack. You might go special psych up to power drill, then from power drill to his unique, and that will do a lot of damage depending on where the enemies are. And the fifth one is recover 5% HP and 4% MP. And It's a physical and spell power plus 5%, so everything gets 5% power up if you get third and fifth. He also has a special ability in the same tree as I say as the DQ5, where with the special psych up, he has the ability to ignore 1 damage. So it is useful once again in PvP as well. So if you're looking for a PvP unit, Parry is in the top 20 still in JP. So there is 2 units there in the top 20. His leadership effect is just a blanket increase in attack power by 15%. Can't say much. That's top notch. His HP is 1391 with the defense of 543, so he's not super tanky, but he's not weak either. MP 463, which is a bit low overall considering, but remember, you're really going to be just trying to go all out for 3 turns with Parry, so that is enough. Tact 520 and agility 465 with a movement of 3 and a wisdom of 308. Remember, this is all 5 hearts awakening. And he does have a weight of 65, which is a little bit of a letdown. But he does have enough power for it to be worth a weight of 65. And we'll go through that. Heroic skill, turn 2. And it kind of depends on how you're going to go. You will either use this on turn 2 or turn 3 almost all the time. It's a self diamond zap. Inflicts heavy zap damage to all enemies with a non reflective magic damage based on attack power, which is what you want, as you can see with the attack. Should also strip any buffs as well. It is not as powerful as some of the other units where you could hit it twice, but it is very heavy zap damage, and as long as they're not resisted against it, it will do great damage, especially when you can get your special psych up, greatly increased tension for 1 turn, and this awakening skill. That is just going to be a massive, massive damage in itself. Very, very powerful, but also this MP consumption is incredibly high. Yes, you can get it down to about 120, but with even with 463 as your max, that is taking about a fourth of it away. And it is pretty painful to use, but it does the damage. And as I say, you want to use as much of his power in the first 3 turns because that's what he's designed for. His preferred weapon's his sword. That's a surprise. Heroic physical power 5%. And it gives his Gazap and Shining Slice power, which those are the 2 that you're going to be using. And in general, your goal is to use each of those once, or maybe not even Shining Slice, depending on how the board is there. So I would go with the Gazap power, but that's kind of up to you. It's also kind of up to the luck of your rolls. If I want one, I usually get a bunch of the other. With this upgrade, ignore first hit and occasionally increase tension if attacked by enemy, which is really scary to be honest. He just can build up tension like no one's business. And his power may be the best at First Awakening for the first 3 turns. And with that, especially if you're a Third Awakening, because that has a lot of tension ups potentially possible. So he can output the most damage in the first 3 turns, but he also has a very wide range of damage because of his skills. So he's not going to be as consistent damage as a lot of other heroes. And that's kind of, I would say, a con. Also, it's a high probability of increasing damage being taken by the enemies. And I forgot to say this, but Shining Slice deals this bang damage and has a high probability of increasing damage being taken for 3 turns. And that is just wonderful, especially on a big enemy. And this might actually give him the ability to do big boss battles later down the line. That's going to be the one PvE thing that he will be very strong with. Skill cons: can't maintain his bounce busts for very long. He's, as I say, for only 3 turns. He needs someone else to be there. But, he does have the nice AoE for PvE along with the high probability increasing damage. Will I pull? Yes, but not very hard. I have very limited resources. This is the next best unit coming out. And honestly, we're not going to get another great unit for about another month and a half. But the main hero is a lot more important to me than Parry. But I will say Parry is a top 20 unit in JP. So it's not that Parry is a bad unit. A hero is way too important for most PvE big things. And Parry is a PvP unit that you're going to be fighting for other units along with him. So if you are a small spender, you may want to try at least get 1 copy of Parry. If you are a large spender, obviously you're getting Parry. And if you are free to play, you're probably just going to pray for Parry. Otherwise, you should be spending your resources on hero, the DQ5 hero, Monster Wrangler. Madchen is a little disappointing on this banner, but is a unique unit, but is not nearly as powerful as the other units potentially in this banner. But let's just go over her. Royal Rally, she can increase her own tension for 1 turn and spell recovery power for 3 turns. And it's a lot lower of a MP. Multi-Blast is inflict bang spell damage to one enemy 5 times and occasionally sleeps. That is actually a pretty nice spell if you get her and you're trying to build a sleep team. If like an enemy's really weak to sleep, that's really good. And she has Big Freeze, which is this huge crackle and deals heavy critical damage to all enemies, especially after she does Royal Rally, does a great amount of damage. But the big issue is Crackle's the most forgotten element in this game, so you don't use Crackle very often. Um, her awakening skills, her first one's really interesting. She could do, if her HP is less than 70%, recover 50% of max HP, not MP, sorry. And she could do this twice, even if her own friends deal damage to her, either being charmed or whatnot. A lot of others are only if the enemy does it, but it can be done with her at all. So she can be hard to kill if you don't have a very powerful unit. Her big issue is that Madchen does not have much HP and defense, so she can be one-shotted fairly easily, which is really her big issue. The second one is Frizz, fourth is Sizz, third one's Tension based on how many enemies you attack, and with Big Freeze, and she could do it quite a few times. If they're lined up properly, she can get a lot of tension over and over again. And the fifth one is Recover 5% HP and 4% MP. And her spell power is plus 5%, and all she does is cast spells. Leadership effect is really nice for a spell team, increases spell power by 15%. But if you look at her max normal HP or stats at full awakening, at full level, 1,166 HP and 346 defense is not going to cut it in this time and place. Her agility is only slightly faster, and she doesn't have any way to truly buff herself or do damage mitigation. And so she is just screaming to be one shot, and this is why she's rated pretty low for being a new unit. Her wisdom is 475, which is okay, and honestly, a weight 60 is just way too high for her. If she was a 50, she would be a more useful unit. Movement, and she has a movement of 3. Her heroic skill, turn 3, is Madchen Cannon. Deals heavy non-reflective spell damage to all enemies. It's no element, which is nice. The preferred weapon here is the Staff of Stros. Heroic spell power 5%, and does cannon and Big Freeze power. I think Big Freeze is going to be a little bit more useful than cannon, but once again, not really planning on using her, so I will be grabbing the MP and or intelligence. Pros and cons: 15% magic runaway makes her incredibly dangerous, and she is the pure definition of a glass cannon. She can deal a lot of damage with her extra 15% magic runaway, and with other weapons you can even add a little bit more to that. And with that, she can be very, very dangerous, but she can be one-shotted so easy that that's going to be an issue. Her special move is magic and can't be reflected, which is unfortunately getting rare these days. The last time we've had magic was our Frizz King, and at this point, having magic skill damage is really nice just because it's less and less used. She has long range spells and movement of 3 that allows her to hit from far away, which is great. An excellent recovery rate as long as she is not one shot, but she is a 60 weight hero and her stats just don't cover it. Yes, her magic runaway is basically getting to 20%, which is 1 out of every 5. And, if she's hit with the Big Freeze and with a high tension, that deals a lot of damage. Still, she is not a 60 weight hero for like her stats, and that's why she's rated less. Her firepower is a bit luck based, so usually that means if you're using her on offense, she's probably not going to crit, and if you're fighting her on defense, she's going to crit at the wrong time and murder you. So it's going to be a frustrating unit. At least that's what happens with me. And with the no mitigation, she's just too flimsy. I'm sorry, I did not change the will I pull. No, the only thing I'll do is the tickets for her. If I most likely because I'm like, nah, I don't want her. I will get her. And the A unit that's shared is Drag-goon. I do love the name. Has ability to increase physical power for one and effects by 50% for one turn. Has can This unit though is a bit weird, very highly blind dependent. And I'm not really a huge fan of the blind mechanic. Doesn't really do enough for me to scare me. Um, but can do some damage along with the blind. And Dragon Sajin has a pretty large with the self diamond to be useful. Um, but if you have enough of Drag-goon and you're fighting weak blind, it can a third increase will give you 50% max HP and increased power, and greatly increase attack, physical, and recovery. And so it will allow you to deal a lot of damage, especially with its max attack stat of 503. It's got a decent HP, but just enough defense to really be like an invincible tank with the blind. But enough agility and with the attack can actually do some decent damage for an A. And a leadership effect reduce enemy blind resistance by 25%. So if you're pulling a lot for Parry, Dragoon can be a useful but odd one trick pony for the being blind. Um, but it's not like a unit that I definitely have to have. If I get him, fine. If I don't, that will be okay. But if you do get him to at least a third awakening, he has the ability to self heal and to preserve quite a bit, which is pretty nice. And with blind, you have a chance of having a lot of misses. So it's a unit that you've got to worry for on defense. Not a great deal. The only issue with it is, once again, is it can be really annoying if it keeps blinding you and you keep getting unlucky and you keep missing it. I hope you guys do enjoy. Don't really have much else to say for this banner set. Other than Parry's definitely your go-to. Madchen is a little disappointing. She needed to be a lower weight. I think they just put all heroes at 60 or higher. And she's not a 60 hero, unfortunately. So I hope you guys have a good one. Stay safe. And more importantly,